We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater.
Okay. Hello and welcome to episode 14 of 10 Years On. I am your host, Jacob London. This is April 9th, 2010. And today we are going to be talking about a date night and exit through the gift shop. But before we get to there, let me introduce my co-host, Taylor Robinson. How are you?
You know, I'm running on 3 hours of sleep a night. Just went back to work. The world's on fire.
How about yours? That's a good song.
Well, that's fair. Let me introduce my other...
Do we have to introduce Nick after
Yeah,
that?
after that.
I feel like we should just kick him out.
After that, I think Peter agrees. Guys, Nick and Peter, how are you?
You know, not all stars, but we're doing all right, I guess.
Yourself. Jeez.
Sorry.
I mean, they want me here, so
Yeah.
I'm great. I'm always great.
I'm excited to talk about these movies, though.
Yeah, so am I. This should be a lot of fun. Well, I guess we should just kind of jump straight into the first movie. Let us talk about Date Night.
That is a very interesting poster.
I know
Sorry.
it is. That is very fair. In New York City, a case of mistaken identity turns a bored married couple's attempt at a glamorous and romantic evening into something more thrilling and dangerous. Directed by Sean Levy and starring Steve Carell and Tina Fey, what did you guys think of Date Night?
I think that this movie has a lot going for it just based on the fact that you believe that they're married. Mm-hmm. Like, you believe that they're a real married couple, and they interact the way that I feel like most people would, in terms of, like, you know, instead of just, like, always, like, screaming at each other and always just being, like, the doomed married couple, like, when everyone talks about how marriage, like, kills a relationship.
Yeah.
That's not this movie. They're in a rut, but they're not, like, just so
No.
cartoonishly, like, in
It's
a bad...
not so dramatized to like what we see in comedies or dramas, I guess, to that point as well. Where
I think it was because it was, you know, Downhill that we saw not too long ago.
Yeah.
Was kind of the one thing that we can really relate this to, because you sort of saw Will Ferrell and Julia Louis-Dreyfus and didn't really believe that they were married for at such an extended period of time. Whereas
yeah, there's
here,
not loads of chemistry there.
Steve Carell and Tina Fey very much come across like two people who know each other.
And likable people as well.
Yeah.
Like, they're likable in real life. Like, Steve Carell and Tina Fey are a fan, but like even their characters, you're like, yeah, like if I was going on a party, like a couple's party, like these are the two who I'd want to gravitate towards because they just seem like real people.
And you
that's
can
cool.
tell that this is like, they're two people that, as you said, they're two people that love each other, but they're two people that like each other as
Yes.
well. Like, you
Yeah.
can tell that they were like, this is a relationship that survived because of a friendship that, you know.
And the movie does really well in that opening, like 10 minutes of showing you that. Like, when they get out of bed, it's like, you know, their day has to start and they're just like, all right, cool, we'll just go through the motions. And then when the babysitter's like, it's date night, and they're like, do you want to go to date night? And it's like, only if you want to go to date night.
I like
and it's like,
that, yeah.
we all do that.
But I like that it didn't turn into a fight.
Yeah.
Sort of
Yeah.
thing where it's like, okay, you both forgot, but that's because you're both under so much stress.
Which is to your point, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And it's like and the movie is smart to not then bring that into it and be like, yep, they forgot about it, but they're gonna keep going because it's their tradition to do date night.
Yeah, I think that is the film's biggest strength, is the chemistry between Steve Carell and Tina Fey. That is clearly the film's greatest strength. If we just want to move back to the actual poster.
I have a couple of problems with this poster, and it's not because this poster is bad. I don't think this is a bad poster. I think that this is not the best picture to choose of Steve Carell, just because his facial expression is not very, like, this doesn't sell me what the movie actually is.
Because the other poster,
Yeah, the
they
other one
actually look like
the other
disheveled.
one makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
This
The real
poster
frazzled one, yeah.
is the one that I like
Yeah.
because, like, what
They've both been like ultra sheened.
So
in
what?
this
Yeah.
one.
So basically, what they're trying to do with the this poster here is basically the date night's the words that are ruined, and they're fine, but instead this other poster is, oh no, they're ruined, but the date night's fine, which makes more sense.
Because I honestly, looking at that, I was like, oh, the words are like they're burning in fire. And initially, it was like, it kind of looks like Tina Fey's hair is on fire, but it's not.
No, they just chose a really weird.
They really
read
that up, haven't they?
I was like, that is not Tina Fey's
But
hair.
I think this poster is perfect.
That
So
IMDb
much
one's
better.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because
Pick up the game on iTunes, hey.
I
I
know
know.
what the hell is going on here. Like,
know.
honestly.
And it's like a testament to Steve Carell and Tina Fey that they're like, this is the thing that's selling this movie, because as we know, this movie has a shit ton of people in it. Like, so, like, every single scene, you just like,
There's a new
oh
person.
my god,
Yeah.
this actor is in this movie.
But it's not to where you're like, oh, they just threw a name in here, because
Yeah.
at the time
They weren't
They
names.
weren't.
Yeah,
John Bernthal, Ari Grainer,
Mark Ruffalo,
Kristen Wiig, James Franco,
Mila
Mila
Kunis,
Kunis, Gal Gadot.
Olivia Munn,
Mark Wahlberg obviously has a
Nick
big
Kroll.
Nick Kroll, he's so
Like,
funny.
it's
in
the
big
list
movie.
is just goes on and
It's
on and on
huge.
and on.
Yeah.
And
So
you
many
can imagine, like,
cameos.
Kristen Wiig was probably like, she was just sort of becoming someone in SNL, so that would have been her connection.
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo still wasn't like,
He was in
Mark
things.
Ruffalo,
Yeah,
the way
he
that
was-
we know him
Well, he
now.
hadn't been the Hulk yet,
You
so.
know.
No.
John Bernthal and Ari Grainer were definitely like
They
early
were-
stages of their career.
Oh, for
Like,
sure. Had The Walking Dead started by that point?
I think it didn't. No, I think it was in its.
It was that coming out that year.
But he was
See, that's the year or the
definitely-
year after.
You'd never like connect John Bernthal to like a preppy comedy. because
no,
that is
not at all,
his
no.
aesthetic at all.
But he loves popping in and out of like random movies as well.
Yeah.
Like he loves doing his little bit roles. So
and like
awesome.
Franco and Kunis is just
So
I do
funny.
think that to add to that, they all have something to do in this movie where it doesn't just
yes.
feel like they're throwing all these different characters at you.
just for the sake of
And
it.
And they don't
yeah.
overstay their welcome. Like I think
Right.
about Kristen Wiig, like she has the integral like moment with Tina Fey, who's like, she's like, you should go do something. You should be living like
You
you
should
know
go have
doing your
sex with
day.
3 black guys as I want to. As Kristen Wiig
As
wants to.
Yeah.
We'll leave that one there.
But that's what, like they don't overstay their welcome. Like same with John Bernthal and Ari Grainer. They're in like an integral character movement for Steve Carell and Tina Fey, and then they're done. So yeah,
I just want to say that I think Wahlberg is used perfectly in this
So-
movie
Yeah.
Like,
because
so good.
I think this was kind of when, like 2010, because he had this and the other guys, and I think it was really when
Love
his
that movie.
comedic, like he was used
Yeah.
in comedy. Like up until this point, he'd pretty much been sort of
Drama,
action. Drama, and like Mark Wahlberg in comedy, when it's done well,
yeah.
So
he's
Yeah.
so good, and he knows how to play it. Like he knows he's playing the sort of Mimbo, I guess.
Yeah,
You know?
yes,
And like, if
yeah.
you're gonna have Mark Wahlberg in a movie and he's gonna be in
He's got to be dumb.
shape and dumb, it's perfect for this.
And it has like Mark Wahlberg's character has the best payoff joke with Steve Carell, and I'm assuming this would have been because this was a PG-13 movie,
Yeah.
right? I think I watched the unrated version because there was a couple more f-bombs in it.
But you do,
Yes,
but
well,
you know,
but
PG-13.
the PG-13 one
yeah.
has the best one where Steve Carell tells him to put on a fucking shirt at the end of the movie, and I was like, "That's the best." It's
because
such a
he's
good time. He
shirtless
showed us the whole movie.
for no reason.
Oh,
But
You know,
my,
it's
just
my,
great.
my favorite thing about that, because it's not typically done that way, especially in comedies, it's playing to the comedy but for the female gaze,
Yes.
where he's the one that's like
Yeah.
Absolutely.
just, you know,
Which, you know-
needlessly looking
Yes.
sexy when it's like, do you really need to not have a shirt on?
But then they play on that even further when Gal Gadot comes downstairs and she's like in the lingerie or in the robe or whatever.
But
and
she still has more clothes on.
still has more clothes
Yeah.
on than Mark.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to play it as like, because obviously Tina Fey's having a good ogle at him, and then they're trying to play that for Steve Carell as well. But the joke is more so Tina Fey is,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
which is funny. It's
Yeah.
so good.
I mean, there are so many different scenes you can break down in this movie. I do want to talk about the Mila Kunis and James Franco scene because
So good.
it is just the perfect amount of chaotic energy.
Yeah.
That
Oh, God,
it's
yeah.
like, it's so good because you 100% believe this relationship, even though we only see it for about 5 minutes
Yeah.
maybe. But
Yeah.
you completely believe that it's real. You completely believe that these outrageous characters are just like, I don't even know how to put into words how great it is because
It's such a good juxtaposition for Steve Carell and Tina Fey's
Because
characters too.
they're quite like
they're a bit more reserved,
Yeah.
and this is the first time they're opening up a little bit. They make the decision to be the triple horns for the night, and then it obviously goes completely like batshit crazy off the wall. Whereas like you get the feeling that James Franco and Mila Kunis's relationship is like that every day and every night, and so it's kind of funny to see like them bounce off each other like that.
I was just gonna say the triple horn joke was one of the most random moments because in the movie when because Mila Kunis and James Franco are actually the triple horns, and so when the name is called out at the restaurant, and I remember watching it going triple horn, I was like, oh, like the actress Jean Triplehorn, who's like not someone anybody ever
It's not a
references.
pop culture
Not a pop
reference
culture reference.
at
So
all.
the fact that they use that, and then it's actually Jean Triplehorn who they're like, who he references to be like, what? I'm just a big Jean Triplehorn fan. I was like, random, but like just one of the best payoffs.
It
so
works.
good.
I think one of my favorite moments of comedy in the whole movie, even though it's like so dumb, but it's my favorite thing when they go back to the restaurant and they just have things on backwards, and the hair is over the face, but they're like the exact same. And
they're trying to be like, oh, that's like Will.i.am over there, or like whoever they say.
And then they say like Sam I Am.
Sam I Am,
And
yeah.
they're like, oh, you call him Will?
like, oh, that's weird.
And you just know that Steve Carell and Tina Fey like bantering, like because they're obviously really good at improv.
Oh,
with the
God,
way-
yeah.
And you just know it's them just being so completely random, and because they're bouncing off Nick Kroll, who's also equally as funny. That's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Because I really like the scene when they're at dinner and you can tell, and they start like narrating the other people.
Oh, that's right.
Because that's a really good like example of their relationship. Like you
Yeah,
can tell that
yeah.
this is something that they have done together, and it's their like little way of having fun.
Yeah.
And like them narrating this date
That other
and how
table,
she's
yeah.
just like, I'm gonna go fart into a shoebox, which makes no sense. But just there's so much. This movie
There's so
just
much
brings me
irreverent
so much
humor in
joy
it,
to
so
watch.
much
The,
fun.
after watching
Yeah.
this movie, I just want to answer the phone with "You're welcome."
Yeah, yeah.
because that's
What is it? Welcome to Claw. You're welcome.
Yeah, it is. I just want to be like, "This is Taylor. You're welcome," and just see what happens because that's the
Because you'd be like,
best.
what? Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you. It's like I already said.
I kind of want to like just open a show like that without like saying anything. Be like, "Welcome to 10 Years On. You're welcome." Or just, like,
Be a guest on a show and just do it. Like, here's Taylor
right.
Robinson. You're welcome.
Yeah.
We should do that.
Actually, the next time you ask us how
Actually,
we are,
we won't tell you when we're going to do it.
Yeah,
It'll be the next show.
it'll be-
We'll
yeah.
Let's be real, you'll forget next time.
Yeah, probably.
oh my God.
So I guess Day Night, big recommend from all of us.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think,
yeah.
I guess if you wanted to touch on the James Franco Mila Kunis scene, because it has some of the funniest jokes in it as well, which is the sideways gun,
Right. Yeah.
because he tries to threaten him with that. And then the shut your face. Oh, no, shut your vagina. And by vagina, he means your face, which is one of the best lines I think I've
And
heard.
how she
in a
says it like
comedy.
at the end.
At the end of the
he
movie,
says it's like, you shut your vagina. And she's like, he just means your face.
I just, it's crazy because you don't really get comedies like this being made
No.
really anymore.
No,
It's just fun. It's just a whole lot of fun.
The comedy most recently that I've had the most fun with that just felt like a straight up comedy was Long Shot.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Long Shot.
But it's very rare that we get movies like that.
Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend
Because there's
this
like an
Yeah. Can we have
Yeah.
a whole thing where people discover Long Shot?
Oh,
Because
God,
that
seriously.
movie
under the radar last year. I love that movie.
So good.
So fun.
so good.
But I think the same thing, like Long Shot and Date Night sort of have in common, is like there's a sort of like a wholesome aspect to it. Like it's not wholesome to the point where it's like, oh no, they're not swearing, there's not sexual jokes. There's plenty in both. But there's
It's
like
just-
the
it's
characters
not-
and
it's
you
not a
like
mean-
the
it's not a
relationships.
mean-spirited
No, it's not
movie.
mean. It's not people making fun of each other for 90
I feel like
minutes.
that's the problem with a lot of comedies is they try to be mean and think
Yeah.
it's funny.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's just
And sometimes
just
that's
mean.
okay, but you get tired of watching that if you've seen like that's the last 6 comedies you've seen. You're like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
now I'm an asshole because I'm trying to be funny
Like,
like that to people. So.
this decade has definitely been the I don't think this is fair, but it's the best comparison I can make. It's been we're trying to rip off Hangover, and Hangover was mean spirited.
Oh, yeah,
so
Hangover's super
let's
mean-spirited,
and that's been what we've had to face this entire decade of just
And because the
mean-spirited comedy.
Hangover was almost like it was almost like a tonal shift from like the early 2000s was like the frat comedies. There was so many like teenage sex comedies.
Yeah, like American Pie, Euro Trip, Sex Drive.
All of those. And then they make The Hangover, which has that humor, but then turns it. It's like, okay, so these are actually like men now and they're a little bit more mean spirited. And that's like where the comedy sort of turn. You know, they're men biologically, not by, you know, maturity, which is why I love that movie. But that's what I mean. That's where we sort of saw the tone shift, and yeah, I agree with your statement.
Yeah, I'm really kind of.
What did I say this time,
No,
Peter?
it's just like
What
you
did I say this
just love a movie that's got a lot of men in it. So.
That's. I'm just gonna leave. I think we might just leave date night there.
Please go watch it and then watch Long Shot.
Yeah, basically,
Yes,
I think
watch
that's
Long
what we
Shot.
can.
It's a good
we can
double
take forward.
feature.
That actually would be a great.
Actually, I just want to touch on another thing with Date Night. No, because the ending with I can't think of his name, but he plays like the really corrupt senator.
William Fletcher.
Yeah. And how he's interested in like
Oh
both
my
Tina
God, the
Fey
strip club
and
scene.
Steve
Guys,
Carell.
guys, I
It's-
need to say that him watching this scene was my favorite thing in the entire world because I think it's hilarious because it shouldn't work and that's why it works.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
just
God,
being
yeah.
the worst dancers. They're
Yeah.
being so awkward and this guy's just so into
He's so
it.
into
it. Oh, yeah.
And he's so like, this is
And-
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm feeling
and then
this,
it's,
yeah.
he's just sitting there like,
And Tina Fey is like really like
She's boosting it up. and-
boosting
One
it
of
up
my
is very good.
favorite-
And then isn't
one of my
Carell in
favorite
like
things-
a tracksuit?
yeah, he is. But the kicking off, the whole scene is my favorite part because he's like amping her up. He's like, honey, like you're sexy, like you can do this. It's great. And then it's like, oh, both of you. And she's like, honey, you're sexy. And he's just like, no.
As of yeah.
No, it's such that's a
And
really
it's funny
good-
because
it's a
he's
good little
obviously like the
payoff.
coked up mayor and he's just like real loving it. And then when it's the reveal and Steve Carell's reaction is, movie's so much fun.
Yeah.
It
So
is,
much.
but I think that's why it is and ends up being so great because it isn't mean spirited. It's just it's fun and it's goofy and
Yeah.
it's just trying to let you have a good time
Yeah.
without like being mean. Like that's so
Yeah.
And there's like it's not there's no like agenda. It's not trying to give
Yeah.
a message. It's just like we just want our audience to have fun with a
Amen.
comedically capable cast who clearly all like each other and got along with each other.
And who are good at what they
You
do.
know, yeah.
They're not trying to make comedy stars out of this. They're like, oh, let's just use people who we know are funny,
Yeah.
who aren't necessarily stars yet. And then
and who can do comedy in like a very subtle way.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like no one's like super over the top with their comedy. And when it is over the top, it feels very organic to their character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big recommend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big recommend from me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought, I think it's a very funny, enjoyable movie. All right, let's move on
Oh
to
God, let's get into some controversy.
Holy
All
shit.
right,
Yes.
let's get into our next movie. It is the documentary Exit Through the Gift
I want
Shop.
those
The
sunglasses.
Academy Award nominated documentary Exit Through the Gift Shop, following the style of some of the world's most prolific street artists and amateur filmmaker, makes a foray into the art world. Directed by Banksy, starring Banksy and Mr. Brainwash.
Directed by
Yeah,
Excuse me, starring.
Sorry,
Banksy.
Banksy. This is cool. It's a cool poster. I mean, it's his artwork.
You know what? I like the poster because, like, with it being this huge graffiti street art documentary kind of movie, it could have been a super over the top
Yeah.
poster, but I kind of like how they just left it.
It's kind of cool.
with
It's
what it is. Yeah.
it feels Banksy. Like it feels,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's a bit more stripped back, a bit more downplayed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
let's get into this movie.
I'm gonna let them start.
All right, I think so
because-
too. I think we should definitely just go over to Nick.
Yeah.
Guys.
Tell us why this is.
guys.
Tell us
You
why
guys.
this is the single greatest film
Dude.
this year so far.
Look.
Bro. Bruv.
I was about to say, bro.
At the same time.
Fuck. I'm too predictable. I gave this 5 stars on Letterboxd. I have an obsession with characters who, and by characters I mean like people who are real life people who are sort of larger than life. It's why I love The Room with Tommy Wiseau. I think there's such a mystery behind Tommy Wiseau and who he is as a person and how he made The Room that I'm attracted to that sort of thing. I got the exact same vibes from Thierry, or Mr. Brainwash, as we learned to...
Thierry, look
Thierry.
at you.
You know, I know a little bit of French. The same vibes from Mr. Brainwash as we later know him in the film. This movie is ridiculous. I was genuinely intrigued by the following of the graffiti artists at the beginning. I was like, it seems like a cool culture. These guys are just out there trying to, they obviously have things that they want to say, whether it's political or so like society commentary that they want to say. And they do it through this awesome form of art. And then we get introduced to this guy who's like, I'm going to film everything. Like, I have enough tape and I have enough money to go to all these countries and film everything. And he is the weirdest character in the world, who then meets up with Banksy, who is in this film quite a lot, considering he wants to be a person who's completely anonymous in life. He does a lot of interviews. Banksy is British in this film with a very, very rough Cockney accent, like, oh yeah, I do graffiti street art and shit. Thank you.
I mean, that sounds exactly like
Right.
Maybe I'm
Banksy.
Banksy.
I mean, and we've never
Maybe it's
seen Banksy and Nick together in the
same
same
room.
time. So
Holy shit. And that's
my
why I
God.
love this movie, because
Right,
it's
'cause it's
my
your
piece of
movie.
art. And it's ultimately the story of this guy who copies everyone and claims it as his own work, and has this sort of like revelation in his life that he's like, you know what, I also have something to say, and it's just going to be the exact same thing that all these other people have been saying throughout the whole movie. And it just, the relationship that he has, that Brainwash has with Banksy, is one of the most disturbing, interesting things I've ever seen. I loved it. I loved every second. I was on the edge of my seat. I watched this with my partner, who has watched barely any of these movies for this podcast with me. And smart move. I'm glad she values her sanity, but this was one we just sat there and we were just both completely glued to the screen, because we just had no idea what was going to happen next. Holy fuck, I loved this document, because none of it seems real.
No.
And I really think that's intentional. I don't think this is a documentary more so than this is. They had to film a fair bit of shit on the fly, but there was definitely this seems like a big fuck you. This is what this whole movie feels like. It seems like a big fuck you to anyone who is sort of like, I want to be like Banksy. I want to, anyone who's tried to copy this.
I want to be like Banksy.
Is that a song? I only know All Star. That's the only song I know.
Right, yeah.
And that's I think it's kind of funny, because it has a commentary, but at the same time it's sort of detesting its own commentary. And I don't know. I've thought about this film a lot over the past few.
You can't tell.
No, I'm jeez. But yeah, does anyone else want to say anything? 'Cause
I mean, I'm dying to hear what Peter has to say.
Hey, you've made this movie sound very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying it's not interesting, but I was so fucking frustrated with this movie. And I think that's the point. Because
it's 100% the point.
He's just...
Well, I guess for
I
context,
don't buy any of it.
No,
Like,
and for
I don't
context,
think
this
is a
movie's
di-
not about Banksy
I
at
don't
all.
think this is a documentary. I think it's all he orchestrated the whole thing.
It's
Like
Banksy's
but
fuck
the
you.
thing is, like,
and I love it.
you think Banksy was actually
I don't
involved?
think
Probably
Banksy
not,
was
no.
involved.
Because I don't think he was, and I don't think that Thierry is smart enough to have done all this by him. Like, he can't be the one that orchestrated it. There's
And then
no
if he-
way.
And then if he is, he's like a genius.
But I promise you he's
yeah,
not.
Like, but
Like,
that's giving him far
There's,
too
way
much.
too
there's
much.
no way. So I want to, like, the thing that fascinates me is who set this up.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it wasn't Banksy and it wasn't him.
No.
And it's funny.
Oh, and does
'cause-
he actually believe that it was Banksy?
Don't
Like, does he think
Like,
he
yeah.
actually met Banksy?
The way that this movie becomes interesting is this.
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
the conversation.
Yeah.
absolutely,
Because
yeah.
watching it, I was just like, I can't stand him. Like
No, I
was
can't
just
either.
like,
He's
get-
an infuriating
like,
human
shut
being.
up. He was so frustrating.
Because he's that person in the room who is always knows everything. He's like, he knows
he's
something
always like,
about,
he's
and
always on.
Yeah.
Like he's never like you
never
never like
thinks.
you never see like I don't think you ever see like
his actions are here and his thought process is back here. Like, that's exactly who. And
Well,
he calls himself Mr. Brainwash.
I mean, first of all, that's the worst name.
So
there
right.
are two things that I want to bring up.
like especially in 2000. Oh no, wait a minute. This was like set.
Yeah.
back, but
Yeah.
still. Yeah.
So one thing that I want to bring up is I'm fascinated by the Disneyland footage that is in
Yes.
this.
That's
Because we
admittedly-
know that's
yeah.
real.
That's admittedly the part that I'm like,
So,
okay.
like, I don't understand, because his story about it is not real.
His story is
There's
hilarious.
no way.
Like,
Oh my
this,
God.
This movie is like, everything is like the most coincidental.
Oh yeah,
thing,
and
you know?
because the story is that they do the Banksy display, which is the Guantanamo Bay mannequin on the ride, and they had to stop. They put it inside of a ride, and they stopped the ride, and then his retelling of we were trying to get out of the park, and all these big men started following us, and then
I just,
all
like,
of a
just do
sudden,
the whole thing with that accent. It's great.
but then when he's like, I hid it in my sock,
Yeah,
and,
he's like-
and security didn't find anything. I'm like,
it's like you made it sound like it was the FBI following you in Disneyland, and they didn't check your sock for the tape that you got to
It's like,
smuggle out.
it's like, get over yourself.
like so
Yeah.
that whole story is interesting to me because we know the footage that's in it is real and we
'Cause it
know it
happens,
happened.
yeah.
But the story around it makes no sense
No
at all.
sense.
Like
And
the way
that's-
that they try to tell it happening.
And that's why it's so intriguing, and that's why I think Pete was right. The more interesting part is trying to get people to dissect what's
Yeah.
real, and I feel like that's exactly what the idea. Whoever made this, which is not Banksy, whoever made it, is trying to get people to be, because the whole crux of the movie comes in the third act when Mr. Brainwash creates his own show, which is a blatant rip-off of everything Banksy, and he's walking around while everyone else is trying to set up the show. He's like doing media interviews and stuff. He's like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And then everyone's like, dude, we got a fucking show starting in 2 hours. He's like, I'll come deal with it soon. And then they get the word out.
thing I've ever done.
That's not French. What is it?
I don't know.
I don't know what I was doing either.
What you're doing is not fucking French either.
Oh, oui.
I'm really sorry if any of you are French watching this. This is I'm not. I
We don't condone Nick.
That should just open every episode with that. Every time I talk, we just don't condone what I say.
Yeah. At the bottom, like, we have a disclaimer. Like,
Just rolling text along the screen. But yeah, and they're at this show, and then there are hundreds, maybe thousands of people waiting to come into the show, being like, "Oh yeah, no, I've heard of this." Like Mr. Brainwash,
it's
like
the
he's
most
like
It's
pretentious.
the most. It's the most LA
it's the
thing
most
I've ever.
LA
Oh.
thing, and that's what I think the movie was trying to make that message, is to be
Yeah.
like, you're all so far up your own fucking asses
You'll
that
buy, you'll
your
buy
opinion
into
don't-
anything.
Well, they interviewed people
yeah.
inside, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be part of my collection."
Yeah,
and
I'm
like,
gonna pay,
they're-
which is everything against what Banksy
Yeah.
would stand for. He doesn't sell.
Oh, and then he
his,
made fucking like $1 million.
I
Yeah, he
know.
made so much money.
the most like meta part of this whole documentary to me that just gets more meta on itself when you think about it is the original version of this documentary that Terry supposedly made, right? Stop Remote Control or something.
Yeah.
Remote Control.
Life Remote Control.
Of course
Jeez.
you know it.
Something like. But they show you
So
they
good.
show you just a little taste of what this original documentary supposedly was.
Like 15
now
seconds
my question is this original documentary a real one that Terry actually did put together, and then someone else looked at it and went, I can actually make something out of this, and that's how this happened?
And then,
or
yeah.
did they make a fake first version of the
I
documentary?
so hope it was a fake first one, because that is the footage we get to see from Life Remote Control, which in the movie we're led to believe that Banksy sort of like coaxed Terry into making it because he was like, I want to see what this guy can do. And then we see 15 seconds of what I can only describe as
Like
what
having
they
a
would show.
like having a conniption.
Yeah, it's what they would show you. It's the Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
It's what when Alex is hooked up, that's what they're showing you. And then it cuts to Banksy, who's like, yeah, it was like the worst fucking piece of shit
Which
I've
is
ever
like
seen in my
the
life.
only like true thing.
Which is the
that
And I
funniest
is
feel like
said. It's
Banksy
just
would
like,
say,
okay,
yeah. You're like, yeah.
Which is even funnier because later in the movie, he asks Banksy to do a slogan or like a comment for his show. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess there's potential here. Like, and then he gets that printed on a massive banner at the front of the show.
So I think I'm different to you guys. I kind of do believe that this is actually Banksy, and I think it is his movie. And the reason I think that is I think it's his commentary on how stupid anyone who follows Banksy is. Because I think that is the you like this could have been me very easily, and you wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Yet you spent millions of dollars on this type of art. like that's.
I mean,
think
that's fair,
that
too.
feels
That's fair,
like
too.
something
Fair.
Banksy would do as a this.
Like
He
wear the
hired someone
sheep.
to play himself in the interview.
Oh, I don't think it's him.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
not
I
him.
think we can all agree. It's
Yeah.
like it's definitely not.
There's
Banksy.
so many
Yeah.
shots that are too close to revealing the face.
Yeah,
They're
like
yeah.
it's
A little too close
absolutely
for
not him.
comfort.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like there is a very good chance that or not very good, but there is a chance that he actually made this as the commentary on no, you're all idiots.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
this is.
Which is that's how the movie ends. Like regardless whether he made it or not, the whole commentary is like anyone who feeds this, like very much so financially for the wrong reasons, is part of the problem that we're trying to talk about, which is things like capitalism and socialism, things like that.
You have to read the two best lines out
So
of this documentary.
there are two of the single greatest lines in this. Actually, three of them because
Okay, yeah,
three.
yeah.
Number one is I used to encourage everyone I knew to make art. I don't do that so much anymore, which I do believe. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
That is something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Going back on the after the documentary, after he watches the documentary and he says, it was at that point that I realized that maybe Thierry wasn't actually a filmmaker and that he was just someone with mental problems who happened to have a camera. That is my favorite
best
line of this
That's so
entire
good.
movie.
And that can be spread about to many people.
Oh god, yeah.
Yes.
Another commentary. That Banksy
Again,
also
but
made.
and then this is, I think, gets to the crux of Banksy and what this film is actually talking about is Warhol repeated iconic images until they became meaningless, but there was still something iconic about them. Thierry really makes them meaningless.
Oh fuck. Yeah.
And I think that's what he's actually trying to make the commentary on is you have made street art meaningless.
Yeah.
Your greed and your capitalism on street art is now making it meaningless.
Because street art obviously like starts off, it's a very personal thing to the person who does it.
And the documentary does a good job of pointing that out. Like we followed 2 or 3 guys who are genuine street artists who have statements to make. They're not here to make money off it. They show them they're just in like a Kinko's, like making copies of this street art they're going to make. They're like, oh yeah, I'm just going up at 2 a.m. I'm going to spend 6 hours making this. Like they're not in it for the money until Brainwash comes along and then
then they
fucks
kind
that whole
of
plan.
and they kind of all feel very like defeated and
Yeah.
very just like
because
why are we doing
they
it?
do the stingers at the end, and I think one of them's like, I don't do it anymore
do it
because
anymore,
of
yeah.
Brainwash. Yeah.
That's kind of why I do really think that maybe this is real, because it feels like if it is a hoax, if it's not real, if it is all fake, the message is kind of not there. It's the idea of, hey, look at the absolute greed that all of you guys have had on this industry and how much you are destroying this industry. Whereas if it is him, which I feel like it probably could be, then he is actually giving this film this industry a very powerful message, and this documentary is coming with a powerful message. But
that's kind of
again,
interesting.
I can find it very easily that no, this could be very fake very easily.
But that's props to whoever has made this, because there's 2 arguments here, or not even arguments. There's just 2 theories that both have so much validity to them that we still don't know. Like, and that's 10 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite incredible. One of my favorite scenes is when he's walking around his art gallery as it's about to get put up. And he has 2 photos. I don't know why I found this so funny, but
this is puppy.
I still quote this. I watched this a few weeks ago, and I still quote this for no reason. There's a photo of a Batman and a Batwoman, and it's sort of, for lack of a better word, it's just coffee stained to look old. And he goes like, "Yes, I love this one. This one is a Bat puppy, and this one is Bat mommy. They could be the parents or the great-grandparents of Batman. I don't know." And just walks off. And that's the whole to me, that's the funniest line in the movie, because it's just like, he doesn't even know what he's doing. He's just like, oh, Banksy did something like this. Like, it means something to me. And then he literally is just like, I don't know. Bat puppy.
And that, to me, just goes to the crux of the film. That's what it's about. That's what he's trying to say. At
That would
least.
absolutely be your AOL screen name.
Bat
Back
puppy.
back then.
Bat puppy 123 at hotmail.com.
Well, guys, I guess that was Exit Through the Gift Shop. I'm going to say it's a recommendation. I think you should watch it. It will drive you absolutely crazy. It is
frustrating
It is a
as hell.
movie
And
that
watch
is
it like tell other people to watch it so
Oh,
that way
shit,
you can
yeah.
have, because like I watched it and was like, I don't ever want to watch this again. I really didn't like it, but
Yeah.
it's these conversations where
Yeah.
you go where everyone has their valid points and you go, okay, it's possibly one of the most genius things we've seen.
Or it's one of the most dumb things we've ever
Yeah.
seen. And
Either way, it's like one of those movies where everyone's opinion is valid. Like you can't say it's not this.
Yeah.
it's so good.
Unless you like turn to it and say, Mr. Brainwash is an absolute genius and he 100% knew exactly what he was selling and he did it all intentional. And it's like, yeah, okay.
That's the
maybe
one I
you
find
didn't.
a
Maybe,
little hard to
yeah,
believe.
maybe you didn't
Yeah.
watch the movie.
He's too convincing of being an idiot at some points for me to believe that. So.
But no, definitely, I think it's a recommend for me. I think you
Yeah.
definitely should watch it.
Yeah.
At least if you're going to watch, yeah, you're right. Have other people you are watching it with so you can have the conversation because the conversation after it is very important.
Yeah.
To be able to have your
The
interpretation. of how-
conversations are better than the film.
I mean, yeah, because your interpretation and how you interpret this documentary, which is weird because that's not normal for a documentary.
No,
but
I think it's because documentary is like it's
It's such a loose term for
it
this
could
movie.
be,
Yeah.
or it's
true.
Nice.
It's very big recommend for me. All right, well, that's the two films from this week. Let's move
Box
on. Let's move on
office.
to the weekend box office. We have Clash of the Titans with $26.6 million. Date
done.
Night with $25.2 million.
Strong.
How to Train Your Dragon back up to $24.8 million.
So good.
Hell yeah.
Why Did I Get Married 2 is down to $11 million. The Last Song with $9.8 million.
Shame.
Hot Tub Time Machine with $5.4 million. Alice in Wonderland with $5.3 million.
It's leaving. It's getting out of there. Don't worry.
The Bounty Hunter with $4.2 million. Diary of a Wimpy Kid with $3.9 million. And
touch.
Letters to God with $1 million.
Oh yeah. Forgot about that.
Dropped out from last week. We have Shutter Island, which dropped from 10th, and She's Out of My League, which dropped from 9th.
wow.
Yep, both are now out of the top 10. Let's move on to the major news stories from this week. I Love You, Philip Morris has been pulled from release. It was scheduled to open on April 30th. It has now been pulled indefinitely with no reason given. The film premiered at Sundance last year, so 2009.
Yeah.
How timely that a movie is being pulled and there's indefinite release around it. What is it, like
We were-
2020?
We were living this 10 years ago. I mean, it was one movie.
I know. It
And
wasn't
not a major release
And it
film.
wasn't worth all of the, hubbub.
I mean, eventually this movie does get released at the end of the year. It's,
Very
June-
unceremoniously.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like we were never really given a reason, and especially when you look at Sundance 09. So this was a movie that's at least 14 months old at this point, and then we're not getting a release until the end of the year.
I don't remember it being released to awful reviews either.
It's not. Most of the reviews were pretty good.
I didn't hate it. Yeah.
It's pretty. Most of I still haven't seen it, so I will be
Yeah.
watching it this year. But
I mean,
it
I
was-
saw it when it came out on DVD in Australia, which in realism could have been like 2012, 2013. Who
Of
knows?
course you did.
but yeah, that's
Just got that. There's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes you guys don't know about yet. So
One day, one day you will at the end of the year with the Patreon. So make sure you're a Patreon supporter.
Exclusive footage is coming your way, my friends. Just be patient.
I don't condone the things I say on that Patreon video.
I do.
All right, let's move on to Brad Bird emerges as the frontrunner for Mission Impossible 4. Ultimately, he will get that role and he will direct Mission Impossible 4.
Works out well.
It does.
Works out pretty damn well.
It does actually work out pretty well. And it re-energizes the Mission Impossible franchise.
Very
And-
much so.
Oh, definitely. And
Yeah.
then just takes it to leaps and bounds.
Oh, it's
afterwards.
only gotten better.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
only gotten better.
And lastly, we have Megan Fox is in talks to star in Red Sonja.
Red Sonja.
Red Sonja. Movie that never was.
Yep.
And still isn't.
Still
Yeah.
isn't 10 years later.
I mean, yeah, because we had... It almost briefly came to fruition when Robert Rodriguez took it on with Rose McGowan. And then Rose McGowan ended up in the Conan movie, but not playing Red Sonja. And now they have been talking about making
It
Red
almost
Sonja.
recently happened again with everyone's favorite director
Right?
of
Like,
the moment.
the worst decision. Brett Ratner.
Singer was as
no,
well.
it was Singer too. Yeah.
Oh, as well?
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
I was
Talk
talking
about
about Singer, but
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
talk
pretty- I
about a
think I
fucking
thought
one
Brett
too,
Ratner
hey?
was well, yeah.
Jesus.
And everyone was like, if Singer.
Was this pre or post Me Too?
No, it was
This
post.
was post. This was post.
It was
this,
post.
was, this was like
Yeah.
no. This was about a month before Bo Rap.
Yeah,
Bo
it was-
Rap
Oh,
won.
actually,
Recently.
no. This actually no. That
Yeah.
okay. That's
Yeah.
ringing a bell now.
Yeah.
Because everyone was just
Wow.
like,
And everyone went,
What?
"Are you kidding me?"
Was this at Fox?
No,
fucking-
it
I was
was,
gonna say-
it was still Millennium Films.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like, and
I was
he.
like, Fox just fucking fired him from Bo Rap. And they're like, no, we'll give you Red Sonja though. Just clean up your
and
act.
there was a lot of anger about it because they're just like, you have this plethora of female
direct-
filmmakers
yeah.
who should absolutely be the
For that story,
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
but even if for some reason you can't bring yourself to hire a woman to do
It's
it,
like, you don't hire Bryan Singer.
Bryan Singer's your
it's-
first choice.
Yeah.
Really?
and
Okay.
the-
But so we're just gonna leave it in limbo until they figure out the right person to put their hands on it, because clearly they don't have a great track record
No.
recently of.
Because
Oh, no.
obviously at that point, yeah, because Conan with Rose McGowan and Jason Momoa was 2011.
no, yeah, it's 2011.
So
sorry,
I
yeah.
think Red Sonja, the Rose McGowan one, must have been late 2010, I think.
No, from the looks of
Like-
it was early 09.
Oh, was it earlier? No.
Yeah, so that was actually before this
Yeah,
story. It
Before
was-
this story.
Yeah.
Right.
And then again, obviously,
Actually, no, yeah, because it was post Planet Terror, which was
so
2007.
Megan Fox
Yes.
doesn't get it, obviously. And then the next candidate was Amber Heard.
Yeah.
After working with,
Oh,
after he worked with her on Drive Angry. So this producer's had a really great track record with
Fucking Drive Angry.
I'm
who he's
actually,
picked.
I'm actually really sad that we're not gonna get Megan Fox.
yeah.
I
in
definitely
the
could see
movie?
Megan Fox's. Yeah.
'Cause-
But like,
Ugh.
yeah, it's been a whole mess of trying to get this movie made.
Fuck. Yeah. Right.
But no, like, yeah, because Megan Fox was
I know.
done dirty,
I know.
didn't deserve it.
I'll probably bring it up like every couple weeks somehow of how
No,
like she just
I'm
got
all for it
completely
because
screwed over.
like she absolutely doesn't deserve any of the criticism she gets
Yeah.
because the things that she says, if a man said it, wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
She's got a very dry sense of humor, which is I think got her in trouble. But
Yeah.
like she never said she never said anything that was worth
That's not
losing
like yeah.
a film, like losing film
not
roles
when
over, you
not
know?
when her male counterparts in the business are saying at least exactly what she's saying,
Right.
if not worse.
And like, not that this is. I was going to say cop out answer. Not that this is the Dr. Cop out answer, but that was even in a time like obviously we live in a bit more of a cancel culture esque thing at the moment. This was still 10 years ago when people were
Yeah.
getting away with saying some pretty ludicrous shit. So like the fact that they came down on her pretty hard is like, you can fucking like look inwards a little bit, buddy.
But yeah, and I think because she just had like everyone just looked at her as purely like a sex object,
Yeah.
which is understandable because that's how she was framed.
Yeah.
But you watch and Transformers isn't the best example of what she can do. But you watch
Yeah, because she wanted to act and they told her, actually
can't.
just lean over a car and
Yeah.
show us what you
which
got
is
going
great.
on.
Why she got Jennifer's Body.
Yeah.
Everybody watched Jennifer's Body because fucking great movie. But that movie really showed her like how good at comedy she actually is.
This is 40.
This is
She's
40.
very funny in that opposite
You know?
Leslie Man.
She did a little stint on New Girl. She was great.
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I just think I think she deserves to be like re-energized in the
I
industry.
mean, she's
'cause-
only in her 30s
Yeah.
now. Like,
You
because when she
Is she?
first.
Do we know if she's campaigning for anything at the moment? Or is she trying to push for anything? Or
I think
is
she's
she-
she's attached to a new movie that I think it's called Rogue or something. It's like a generic sort of action movie, but I just think she deserves to be more of a name people are talking about in terms of all different roles that are out there because yeah.
Yeah. Also, just going back on the Red Sonja thing, just to give clarity, Jill Soloway is now attached to direct and write the Red Sonja remake.
Why is that name familiar?
Yeah,
She did Afternoon Delight in 2013.
Oh,
And
the Catherine Hahn movie.
So yeah, Catherine
Radner.
Hahn.
Oh,
Yes,
right.
that's so far her only film. So yeah, I mean,
But I mean, I think we're also in a time when a Red Sonja movie should be something that gets pushed because, you know, we're seeing the era of female superhero movies and
Well, female
or
superheroes done-
anti-hero movies.
anti-heroes,
as
but
Red
done
Sonja
by
movie.
you know female directors who have a story to tell, who
And
have
maybe
a strong
if-
voice in the genre.
And maybe if Wonder Woman and Black Widow do super well, which I
at
mean,
this
I
point,
can't see them not doing super
Yeah.
well.
there's one little thing that might hurt it a little bit, and it's kind of out of control of everyone.
Right,
But
yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
But-
Like, it's you got to take that into account because that's exactly what people will jump onto. Like, it didn't do well because
Because women can't do things.
women can't direct.
Fuck.
And then you're like, yeah, but we also have just come out of a worldwide pandemic, and people might be scared to go to the movies and things.
No, Nick, it's that women can't do things.
yeah.
What is this? What it feels like to have my opinion shut down? Fuck.
Hurts, doesn't it?
Oh my god.
No, I'm allowed to say that.
Hey, I'm a straight white man. Let's not forget
yeah.
this. You know what I mean?
Black
Like,
people
it's
have been hurt.
good fucking excuse, buddy.
But I would also think a Red Sonja movie done in the style of Birds of Prey would be
Oh, yeah, it'd be so good.
schmick.
Sort of like an unreliable narrator sort of thing.
Not necessarily
or-
unreliable later, just like balls.
Because that's
to the,
fun. That's
yeah.
that's more what I mean. Like that's fun.
But
'cause
I just think like balls to the wall,
Right,
like
right, right.
embracing the
I don't know much about Red Sonja,
source
so.
material and like going super violent and super sexy and just women
Right.
fucking owning their
kicking ass and
Yeah.
taking names. Yeah.
yeah.
And being like sexy in a way that they feel sexy,
Right.
like Birds of Prey did.
Not that it's like
Yeah.
yeah. Not that it's
Like-
Megan
Not-
Fox
not
in
like-
Transformers sexy.
But like, yeah,
whereas,
like
yeah,
not
yeah.
sexualizing them, but also being like, if we want to be sexy, we'll be fucking sexy, but we'll do sexy the way that we want to be sexy.
Yeah.
Which
Sweet.
it still just like
It's-
literally gives me a migraine when I
Yeah.
think about men saying Birds of Prey wasn't sexy. Like it literally makes me want to throw up
Yeah.
a little bit
Because
because
it wasn't sexy for you doesn't make it not sexy, buddy.
Yeah.
I've said buddy a lot today. Sorry. I don't
Pal.
know. Pal. Come here. buddy
Also,
pal.
take a shot every time we said the word sexy in the last few seconds.
Hell yeah.
you're dead.
be feeling real sexy.
I feel sexy right now.
Oh god! All right, and in Australian release dates, we have on April 8th, Date Night. So we got Day and Date and Kick-Ass. We got a week early. So
Hell yeah.
Kick-Ass we will be covering next week. Guys, next week on the show we have Kick-Ass and the 2010 remake of Death at a Funeral. I'm so looking forward to talking about that. And the Australian film Beneath Hill 60.
oh, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun. So, guys, if you are playing along at home, those are the films to watch for next week. I would very much like to thank my panel of guests today to talking about these films.
You're
Thank you-
welcome.
thank you so much for
Good one.
putting up with these movies. Actually, we had a pretty good week this week.
did.
I'm
This
very-
was
Fun.
a
Yeah,
good
a lot of
week.
fun
This
this
was a good
week.
week.
This was
Yeah.
a good week.
Yeah, considering how our other weeks have been, you know,
I'll take these weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. But if you guys would prefer to listen to the show, we do have audio. You can listen to it in podcast form, which is pretty cool. I know a lot of people have been enjoying getting to do that. You can listen to it at work, while you're at the store, while you're in the car. Like, there are endless ways you can listen to it on
We are
podcast,
literally
so
everywhere.
We're freaking everywhere, okay? It's great.
We're a pandemic of our own, but a good one. You can have that out if you want.
So anyway, so you should check out our podcast. You should check out our first ever bracket show that we did. We did a live stream of our first ever bracket show, and it was a lot of fun.
It was.
People hung out with us for 2.5 hours while we argued about Disney movies, which is always a fun time.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's bold.
So go back and go actually and check that one out because trust me, we yell at each other a lot and piss everyone off.
It's a great time.
It was
It's a super
fun.
great time, and we've got another bracket show coming your way pretty soon.
Yes,
that
we
you can
do.
be
Next
excited
week.
About.
Next week we are going to be going through all of the Marvel films that are non-MCU. So all the
Ooh.
non-MCU films, we're going to find
That's
out what is
exciting.
the best non-MCU Marvel film. So that's going to be next Saturday night at 7 p.m. PST. So
Pacific Standard Time,
Pacific
yeah.
Standard Time. Yeah, so make sure you check us out then.
That'll be a lot of fun. I'm so excited about
I am
that.
too.
I think
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think it's going to be, I mean, it'll be
Chaotic.
interesting because the Marvel movies outside of the MCU
You trying to think?
No, we're trying to think. We're just letting you guys do it. I'm trying to think of like what the...
Electra.
Yeah.
And Daredevil.
That was the first one that came to your mind was Electra?
Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
There's three versions. Guys, make sure you just check out all of our links down in the description below. All of our Twitter, Facebook, everything, including our audio versions of these episodes, are in the description down below. Until next time, guys, I'm Jacob Blunden, and we'll see you then.